Who's the more foolish, the fool or the fool who follows him?
Yo, what's up? At the Geeky Coach here for the Mandalorian Season 3, Episode 2, The Mines of Mandalore spoiler review. Wow, what an episode. I really thought coming out of Episode 1 that we were going to look at the Mines of Mandalore and his journey through them or to them. I really thought that that may be kind of an ongoing season-wide arc where he's going to pick up his crew, where he's going to, bring together a bunch of different folks. He's going to go on these side quests to get the droid parts, all those great things, and that we would kind of get to the Mines of Mandalore near the end of the season and the waters under the Mines of Mandalore, more to the point. And that's not at all what happened. We jumped right in Episode 2 and really completed that arc. The episode starts off with Din, Grogu heading to Amy Sedaris over on Tatooine to look for a droid or look for a chip for the IG unit, and she basically tells him, "You're crazy. Those things are way outdated." And it starts off with a little bit of a funny scam that she's running with the pit droids and the Jawas, etc., basically ripping this dude off. And while we're watching that, we see R4, famed R4 of the original movie, Star Wars A New Hope, the one that kind of blows his motivator heading to when he gets picked up by Luke, and that's why Luke ends up with R2. So we go through that scene. Din shows up, and basically she's like, "You can have R4, but I can't help you with an IG unit." And so Din, Grogu, R4 hop in his Naboo starfighter and head off to Mandalore. And while they're exploring, they find that Mandalore not only isn't poisoned anymore, but it's also not uninhabited. There are droids, which look like they may be of Imperial make. There are weird creatures that are kind of warrior-ish that are there. And Din kind of gets himself in trouble, trying to wield that Darksaber again. And with that, he's not able to wield it. And so Din actually ends up captured and sends Grogu off in a very cool little chase scene for the little guy to go get Bo-Katan. And Bo-Katan sees the ship land, basically says, "I told you to get out of here. I want to be left alone." Then sees that it's Grogu and immediately comes to help Din Djarin. And the way that she comes in and helps Din Djarin is she comes in and she wrecks shop with the Darksaber. It's funny, I saw an interview with Katie Sackhoff on a channel podcast that I listen to, Christian Harloff and the gang over there at the Schmodown Entertainment Network. I think it's just Christian Harloff and Friends, or his channel now. But he had an interview with Katie Sackhoff, and one of the first things she said is, "What's he doing with my saber?" Well, damn, girl, that is your saber. The way that Bo-Katan manages to cut through everyone, it kind of flies in the face of what the Armorer told Mandalore, or told Din Djarin in the Boba Fett episodes, that Bo-Katan wasn't worthy to wield the Darksaber. In fact, you can kind of see that Din Djarin's not really worthy to wield the Darksaber, despite winning it in combat. In the Boba Fett episodes, the Armorer talks about Din is fighting against the blade. And every time we've seen Din Djarin, wield the Darksaber, it is physically heavy for him. He struggles to wield that weapon. And Bo-Katan comes in, grabs the Darksaber, and just wrecks shop. Cuts everybody down, cuts all the droids down. And, to me, it's clear that she's the rightful owner of the Darksaber, but from a myth and story perspective, she is the one that's held accountable for the fall of Mandalore, because when she was originally given the Darksaber by Sabine Wren, for those that have not necessarily gone back and watched Rebels, I would encourage you to go back and watch the Rebels episodes that focus on Sabine Wren kind of in her role in trying to liberate Mandalore and her role as a Mandalorian. And actually, I think that that's a great segue, because I think it may tee up the introduction of Sabine Wren in this season of The Mandalorian, maybe to tee up the Ahsoka show that is launching later this year. And I'll circle back to that here in a little bit, but Sabine Wren and Ahsoka at the end of Rebels, which flashes forward to post Return to the Jedi, are off on a mission together. And Sabine Wren's the one that gave the Darksaber to Bo-Katan, who then lost it to Moff Gideon, which we learned in, I think, Season 2 of The Mandalorian. So, we come back, or circling back to the episode at hand, they travel through the mines of Mandalore. You can tell Bo-Katan doesn't necessarily believe what she calls child stories, myths, and legends, but somewhere deep down inside her, I think she does. And I think that she is worried that she was responsible for the fall of Mandalore, by not winning the Darksaber in combat and instead being gifted it. And finally, we arrive at the waters under the mines of Mandalore. Din Djarin steps into the waters. Bo-Katan's telling him, there's nothing mythical about this, nothing about it. And Din is seemingly sucked into the water and appears like he may be drowning. And Bo-Katan fires on the jetpack and jumps in after him. And what we see as we dive through the waters in the mines of Mandalore could be a mythosaur. And I think that that's what they're teeing up there, is that that's a mythosaur. And the fact that it almost just acknowledges Bo-Katan is really pointing to the fact that maybe Bo-Katan is the rightful ruler of Mandalore, and she could rise from those waters riding a mythosaur, just like Quill said to Din Djarin in the first episode of The Mandalorian, "Your ancestors rode the mighty mythosaur. Surely this blurg can't be a problem for you." And with all of that, I think that the arc that we're teeing up is really in The Mandalorian Season 3 for Bo-Katan to become that rightful heir of Mandalore. And I'm curious to see if it leads to a conflict, a battle, something else with Din Djarin, or maybe someone defeats Din Djarin, takes the Darksaber, and then Bo-Katan defeats that person and wins it back. And I think that that's probably where it's going, but I think that there's a lot of opportunity now in this season of The Mandalorian, just based on the things that they set up here. And I really do think that we're going to get that huge tie-in to Ahsoka that is coming later this year. I think we're going to get that tie-in with Sabine Wren showing up and kind of defending her decision to give the Darksaber to Bo-Katan in the first place. And I think that that's the way that you can pull people who, maybe aren't the deep-cut Star Wars fans like you and I probably are, and pull them along from The Mandalorian over to Ahsoka, especially given that, you didn't see quite that audience crossover between The Mandalorian and Boba Fett. Part of that is, I don't think Boba Fett was particularly well written, and the only 2 episodes anybody cares about from Boba Fett are the 2 that featured The Mandalorian, where he finds the armor, and we get this lore dump on Mandalore, on the Darksaber, all of those things. So if you didn't check out those last 2 episodes of Boba Fett before watching Season 3 of The Mandalorian, you don't need to go back and watch the whole series, but go back and watch those 2 episodes in particular. Similarly, if you want to know more about the Darksaber, go back, watch at least Rebels, the episodes that deal with Sabine Wren and her path with the Darksaber, as well as there are a ton of Clone Wars episodes with Bo-Katan and her sister Satine, which was actually kind of Obi-Wan's love interest throughout the Clone Wars cartoon. So that is my spoiler review of The Mandalorian Season 3, Episode 2, The Mines of Mandalore. I really think that this show is at a great jumping off point. The only thing that I would have done differently with these first 2 episodes is I would have either dropped them at the same time or combined them, because I think these 2 episodes together tell such a powerful story, and that can really be your jumping off point for the rest of the season. The only thing that I think I'm going to be disappointed about in this season of Mandalorian is the fact that if they keep it to the same, 8-episode format, which I'm sure they are. But if the, remaining 6 episodes are as good as these first 2 and kind of follow the same cadence of set up, deliver, I think it's going to be a great season. And I think the little things that they're doing with Grogu, as long as they don't go too cutesy with him, and he kind of continues to develop as a character and kind of continues to grow, and maybe we get words out of Grogu at some point, continues to kind of learn the Force, those kind of things. I think it's gonna be a good time with this show, and I think that they've got a lot of opportunity to bring other characters back in. So, with all of that, that is my spoiler discussion. If you've got your own thoughts, your own comments, your own theories, do me a favor. 1, follow us, Foolproof Entertainment Network, here on YouTube, Facebook. Whether you listen on Apple, Spotify, go ahead and subscribe there. And then beyond that, if you want to interact, drop me a comment, like the video, hit me up on Twitter, on TikTok, and follow me for more quick reviews as well as content like this at the Geeky Coach or at Foolproof Net, wherever you get your social content. And with all of that, peace out, fools.